This is the Unshadowed Thought Podcast with James Hall. This podcast is dedicated to Michelle Goyevich, Ed White, Caitlin Treacle, and I Chan, and also all the others that have lost their life as a direct result of psychiatric harms. Okay, so today's day 4 of my attempt at a prolonged fast. Today I'm feeling close, similar to how I was yesterday, with some things I've kind of noticed that maybe were happening yesterday. I'm just able to put it into words a little bit better. So today I've noticed markedly that any rumination that I had in the past is virtually gone. Like, my brain will not ruminate on things. Like, in the past, I've had both rumination on depressive thoughts and rumination on stressful thoughts, which lead to just agitation of stress, anxiety, and agitation of feeling depressed and fatigued, that kind of thing. So today I went out for a little bit because I felt fine too. I had some energy. But when I was out, I was like, man, my brain is not constantly thinking about things. Like, it's running at a very calm, low level. It doesn't mean I can't think about things. I can think about the things that I need to, and I can do anything that I need to. But it's like my brain is in this neutral state. It's not self perpetuating itself into more and more thoughts, increasing thoughts. And as I realized this, and it's just always that way. Like, at no point of the day do I just snap out of it and like start ruminating or anything. It's just all day, every day, all day. Like, I'm not ruminating. I have simple, complete thoughts. My thoughts go as far as I want them, and when I push them to where they want to go, they just stop. And then I'm just calm, just in my environment, not organically like generating more and more thought about different topics that I might be worried about or thinking about. Like, not worried about money, not worried about my relationships, not worried about my fast, not worried about the things that I generally tend to worry about or ruminate on and think about all day. Not even worried about societal stuff that I'm always on about and thinking about and trying to solve. Just not ruminating. So I got really curious. I was thinking about friends I have that have OCD, or they have repetitive, ruminations and thoughts about things from psychiatric harm, from other physiological harm that they've encountered, other nervous system harm that they've encountered. And I was really curious about how they would do on a fast, because I could not ruminate even if I wanted to. My brain is, if I had to describe it, it's locked into a neutral state where I'm just, like I just said, not, my brain is not inherently going in any direction. It's just calm and together. It reminds me of being a kid. When I was a kid, like, I just run around and do stuff and have fun. I was always present. I was always in the now. I didn't think about how I was gonna, you know, do anything that I needed to do. I didn't care about what I needed to do. I just did what I needed to do when I needed to do it. Maybe people had to remind me, but I would not think about those things outside their appropriate, you know, time to think about it, or until that condition was present, I wouldn't think about it. I was just, the only thing I would think about is having fun. So it's really, really interesting. My thoughts have this really natural, regulated flow. And I think that could be helpful to a tremendous amount of people. And I think there's a reason why prolonged fasting seems to put 90%, 80, 90% of people into remission of unpleasant mental stuff. Being mental illness is how we classify it, right? But it seems to resolve mental health issues as we see it. I see it as putting the brain back into a natural state of consciousness or thought. We have this default inside of us, this what do you call it? That this natural state of being, homeostasis, where our body actually is intelligent enough to know and to kick us back into that state when we're fasting. It's really, really interesting. And I experienced this on single day fasts as well. I think I've experienced this since the beginning. I didn't realize it was happening. It's kind of hard to realize where your consciousness is at. You just think, I'm at this level of consciousness, and then you're thinking whatever you're thinking. You're not thinking about your own consciousness itself. So I think that's really, really significant for people that are considering a fast, and depending on what they're dealing with. I'll be honest, it seems impossible for me to stress out right now, or even be depressive. Like, I could put myself, there's certain things I could think about or worry about when I'm not fasting that I can work myself up into a stressful state, or if I'm exposed to certain things or people, I can get into a really stressful state. But I'll be honest, during my fast, like, I've had conditions and people do things and say things to me that were unpleasant, and for the most part, they roll right off my back. I just stayed calm and I just talked to them about what was going on. Didn't work me up, to a certain degree. I still have emotional presence. Like, I still get upset if someone does something mean to me, but I'm not stressed by it, right? I'm just experiencing regular emotional bandwidth. I was like, oh, that hurts, that person said that to me, but I wasn't like, oh no, I wonder if they're going to do it again, or am I unsafe, or all these things that I usually worry about, when I'm dealing with just regular relational stuff. So take that for what it is. I think that's really interesting. I think it says a lot about fasting, just that in itself, not even all the other things we could talk about, which healing illnesses and different things. Another thought I had today. Sorry, I'm kind of going through my thoughts up front instead of where I'm at, like with the symptoms, like of my stuff and my fast. But so I'll just work through my thoughts up front today. I was having these thoughts about my previous fasts, and so I fasted for a single day, or like 24 to 36 hours in that window for the last few weeks. I did it 1 day a week to try to feel comfortable with fasting and get myself into a place where I would not be stressed about doing a prolonged fast. And when I did that, I remember feeling that there was this metabolic regulation that came from fasting. So when I'm eating regularly, like 3 times a day, lots of times, like, I'll feel really full, and then I'll come to my next meal, and I think psychologically I'll be hungry, but my stomach is still full. So I'm either looking psychologically for gratification from food, or I am just, my neuroplasticity, or the lack of it, is I'm in this routine and I know I need to eat, so I just eat anyways. And then I tend to eat all my food. A lot of us are filled with that kind of notion that, like, hey, you need to eat all your food. Like, you need the nutrients, and it's disrespectful not to eat all your food, right? So I've always been in that kind of mindset. Like, I always endeavor to make this effort to finish my food, even if I'm, like, over full. I'll be like, oh, well, I just have a little bit left, I'll just finish it, right? So being in those states when I'm not fasting, I react badly. Like, if I overeat, I always feel horrible, sometimes for a few days. But I get fatigue and depressive and all this unpleasant stuff, right? But when I'm fasting, I was fasting even for a single day, everything I ate after the fast, I would digest it really quickly and effectively and well. And one thing I've been concerned about is that, like, I've taken supplements, I've eaten really, really healthy, and generally it doesn't seem to do much for me. I've done Candida diet, and following that really, really strictly helped me over a longer period of time. But still, generally, when I ate my food, I didn't feel like I was getting nutrients from the food. I didn't feel like a boost from my food, right? It was just, I was just eating to eat, and to kind of keep myself from feeling an empty stomach, or in an undesirable state, air quotes, like, of not eating, right? Or just trying to keep myself fueled, But after fasting for a day and then eating it, I actually felt like I was gaining nutrition from my food. I felt like my food was actually digesting in an appropriate way that we would think is inherent to like the human kind of condition. Oh, like you eat good food, you get nutrients from it, it powers your body, right? That the only time I've felt that in memory, right, is after like the 1 day fast, after not eating for a while. Like I would feel like, oh, my food's actually benefiting me. It's actually giving me energy. It's actually being absorbed correctly. And take from that what you will. I don't even know exactly what that means yet, but I know that it is significant and it means something towards what we're all experiencing out there eating on a daily basis. Like when we're young and we eat, like I remember eating when I was a kid, I just eat and eat and eat, and I just felt great all the time, and if I didn't eat, maybe I felt weak, right? But our bodies are so different as children than they are as adults. I'm not sure that, well, one thing I absolutely discussed the cookie cutter kind of solution to things that we offer in Western society. It's like, oh, you need 3 meals a day, whether you're a kid or adult, whatever. Like, you need these nutrients and this amount of calories you have based on your size and all this stuff, right? That's BS. Why do I know it's BS? It's BS because it's one methodology tailored to everyone. Everyone is vastly different. A child is vastly different in terms of their biology and physical functioning than an adult, right? So as such, that way I felt when I was eating as a kid and the way I feel now, they're very different, but I'm doing the same things, right? It makes sense to me that something's wrong and things aren't working effectively or dynamically anymore. So I'm curious about that. I think as adults, I mean, historically, evolutionarily, as an adult, you have to fend for yourself and fend for your tribe and fend for your children. And I think it's more likely that as adults we're engineered to go without food for a time in order to provide for our tribe and for others, and that could work to a physiological, neurological benefit. And that's a part of why fasting is important. There's all kinds of research and stuff out there, like people that are fasting for a few days a month, aren't they're not getting sick, right? Their bodies are working way more effectively than people that are eating all the time. And I'm all but convinced that, eating regularly as a child, is healthy, but as an adult, it's not quite the same thing, and that we're meant to go without food for periods, and or we're being overexposed to food, right? We're getting too much food. I mean, having plenty of food, an abundance of food for years on end is maybe a good thing, right? But then you're getting 5-10 years of just eating a ton of food, rich food. There's just an overabundance of food that doesn't seem to fit with the paradigm that nature puts in front of us, right? I mean, I don't think there's any time before the modern era that people would just have food readily available to them for years and years and years and years on end, right? For 10, 20 years. There's always going to be a famine. There's always going to be a fasting period that goes along with that. And I think evolutionarily, our bodies are meant to deal with that. I think it's an intelligent design. I don't think we're designed for opulence. I think we're designed to have a meek existence where us being humble and considerate about everything builds our own health and builds a community health and a tribal health. And that's how it was designed. I believe that it was designed by a consciousness greater than ours, for sure, at a minimum. All the evidence of my whole existence points towards that, no matter what you believe in. And I think this backs it up, and this is the direction I'm going in my own thinking. So, just curious thoughts. I hope you get something out of that. I hope it's beneficial for you. So that's what I've been thinking about today. This is the kind of stuff I've been thinking about. as for what I'm experiencing on my fast, so I'm waking up feeling groggy and low energy in the morning for sure. Last night I felt really crappy, like in the evening. Low energy, just feeling wonky in my head, brain fog and stuff, more than during the day. During the day, there seems to be this power band where, like, I wake up, it takes me an hour or two to wake up. But after I wake up, I'm feeling pretty good actually, and I'm wanting to do stuff. And then, and it gets to the evening, it starts getting dark out, or a few hours into the evening, I start feeling real tired, like I just need to lay down and rest. And I start getting brain fog. I get a little symptomatic. Some of my neurological symptoms seem to pop up, and that's what's going on. That seems to be the rhythm that I'm at right now. It's really interesting. As for food, so I don't even think about food. I'm not hungry when it's not around me, but when I see food, then like my hunger kicks on. And by hunger, I think it's a psychological hunger. Like, this is funny, but I love smelling food. Like the people that are eating around me, like I love smelling their food, and it gives me a certain amount of gratification. It doesn't make me want to eat it anymore per se, but it gives me this experience of food. And I think smell is really good for you neurologically. I think it stimulates brain activity, and just stimulates your whole nervous system. Like, you can almost feel it all over your whole body. Like when you smell stuff that's really good, or you get a really good smell, whether it's a candle or food or whatever. So I'm smelling food because I think it's a good. I got my guts telling me it's a good thing to do. So I smell the food. I kind of enjoy it without actually eating it. But I will admit that I do really, really, really want to eat it at this point. I know your hunger leaves you later in the fast, or that's what people have indicated, and that's what's been written about. So I'm looking forward to that day when I don't desire the food anymore, and I can smell it and be around it without having the compulsion to eat it. But I'd like to think I have a fair amount of fortitude, so I'm like, not really. It's not like I'm just gonna break and then just eat the food. Like, that's not gonna happen. Like, I'm gonna ride this fast out. I don't care how difficult it is. As long as I still think it's healthy for myself, I'm just gonna keep going. But that's where I'm at, kind of, in my hunger. One thing I noticed today is that I'm definitely having less vestibular sensations. So I'm having less dizziness and balance issues than I would ordinarily, which is interesting to me because I usually have a fair amount in the morning, and then I do vestibular exercises to kind of work them off. I'm still doing my vestibular exercises, but I don't even feel compelled to when I wake up. But before I was fasting, I felt compelled to do it every morning when I woke up because I have dizziness and balance problems are pretty heavy in the morning. I really have to get up and get going and move around a lot before they kind of dissipate. And I use that as a reminder to do my vestibular exercises every day, to try to get my system back in line, especially after COVID. After I had COVID, the vestibular stuff just popped right back up, where I had got them down. I had done a lot. I did vestibular rehab and a bunch of stuff to minimize it, and I was doing pretty well with it. But after COVID, it just screwed it all up again, and I felt like I hadn't made any progress, which is frustrating. But I just went back to my exercises and started doing them daily, to try to kick it, and we'll see what happens. But I definitely notice there's a difference in my vestibular sensation, so that's been reduced. Is it a neurological improvement? I don't know. Or it's a change in sensation or consciousness that I'm just not feeling it or realizing it as much. Either way, it's welcome. I don't know exactly what it is. As this goes on, we'll see. Maybe it'll rectify. Maybe I won't have vestibular issues after this. That'd be friggin' wonderful. But I don't know at this point. We'll see. I still have more pain. I still have increased pain in my joints and the pain syndromes that I had before I got this low back thing. That I have severe low back pain and sciatica since TMS, and it came from the TMS. It's prevalent in electrical injury. There's actually research to show it, and I've learned it from others as well. And I thought I just must have injured my back. There's no way electrical injury could cause low back pain, but I've seen it myself, seen it in lots of others. Neck pain is also really prevalent it seems like, but I don't have that. But I still have the low back pain and sciatica. It's actually increased since the fasting, but that was reported as a thing of fasting as well. Your symptoms will actually flare before they get better. I'm in the early part of the fast. It all makes sense. I've experienced it with fasting and or detoxing through the Candida diet as well in the past, so I'm not surprised on that. So the other, so those are kind of where I'm at physiologically, kind of explained where I'm at with my symptoms. The other thing I noticed, this is kind of a metaphysical or spiritual thing, but this is a part of the journey as well, and I'm really looking forward to it. But since I've been fasting, I don't know what the catalyst is. I don't know. Maybe I'm more peaceful, maybe I'm more calm, and people are perceiving that. Maybe it's a change in my reality. I started telling the truth a while back, like utterly and completely whenever I talk to people. I kind of committed to do that after my TMS injury, and I realized that kind of changed the fabric of my reality. I felt that kind of my destiny changed. The way events used to unfold, it seemed that they just worked differently from this point forward. Like, people were more amicable to my ideas. All this stuff, just my life seemed to progress in a positive way, where in the past, like for 15 years, I just couldn't get anything positive out of my life. It just was a constant storm of crap over and over and over again. And then that seemed to change after TMS, and specifically when I started just telling the truth all the time and not accepting anything else but the truth. And so here with fasting, it seems to be similar. People seem to be even more open and receptive to my ideas and my words, and it's really cool. I can't, people seem to be much quicker to make peace with me in my relationships. People that I know that are usually really reserved or defensive against my ideas seem to be more open to them. So, yeah. Yeah, take that as you will, but it's something I actually noticed that seemed pronounced to me over the last day and today, which is really, really cool. There's definitely a spiritual component to this stuff. It's reported by almost everybody that goes through it. Even my doctor was like, hey, I know you're really concerned about what might happen to you on this fast, but I want to remind you to open up spiritually to this experience, and you can have a lot of growth, and it can be a really wonderful thing too. So don't forget about that. And then I thanked him for it, and I told him I built that into kind of my daily routine, trying to grow more and to open up and to experience more things in that way. So this is kind of a part of that. Yeah, and kind of to go along with that, maybe this is related, maybe it's not, but I've had a tremendous amount of gratitude today for my situation. I just make it by. I just get by, but that's okay. I'm really grateful for that. A lot of people I know, their circumstances have changed drastically, and they're mistreated after they're injured, and they don't feel like they're getting by. It feels like things are getting worse and worse every day. For me, I don't have that. I'm really, really lucky that even though I don't have much, what I do have, it feels like a lot, and it feels like I'm okay, and it feels like I'm going to be okay. And I'm really grateful for the people around me. I have family and friends that really love me, and I've met so many people in the community that really love me, and they show it, and they're really kind and wonderful, and I feel really blessed. I feel really lucky to experience that. And on an ordinary day, I'm thankful for it, but I don't really feel it. Sometimes I do at certain times when it's kind of overwhelming or something big happens that affects me. But as a part of the fast today, and yesterday, I felt I felt really thankful for what I do have. I think going without things puts into perspective in a really serious, full way that what you do have and how good that is and how much it means. And then also what we need. We do not need much. I was thinking about these kind of concepts earlier today about in feudal Japan there's these Shugiyosha, which were wandering warriors, and they would go out, they would travel between cities just with whatever was on their back, and they didn't have much, right? Um, just enough to keep them alive, and they would go in the wilderness and they'd travel along roads and stuff, and they'd fend for themselves. And a lot of these guys were excellent warriors, and they were very disciplined, they were very enlightened, they were very spiritual, they were very kind, and they were still warriors, right? And I think that was a part of that was being hardened by the environment, but they learned an incredible amount of wisdom from being hardened by the environment. And I think a part of that wisdom was that we really don't need much to survive. Our environment and our communities really provide everything that we need to survive. And if we realize that we have everything that we need, we don't need anything else, then we can shift to using our time and our energy on things that positively impact ourselves and others. And that's not going out and shopping. Like getting a new iPad is not like positive thing for anybody. It's just a thing, right? It's just something that enables you to do more, but doesn't make a positive impact on your life and other people's lives, right? But that seems to be what everybody's fixated on, and they're fixated on money. But you don't really need money. I mean, no one needs money. They need, right, like food and shelter and water. This is all we really need, and tribe and community is another need. Right? We need to be accepted and loved by others and supported for all the stuff that life throws at us. And when we have those things, which doesn't include money, you know, and we learn from our experiences, then it really shifts life. It gives you a kind of autonomy, right? If you realize you don't need much, you don't need anything, you have autonomy to do what you want to do and do what you think will benefit everybody, including yourself. And when you do that, and we all do that in concert, like everybody benefits in this really big exponential way. And if we don't regularly withhold things from ourselves, or we're not humble about our lives, then we don't experience that. We naturally creep into wanting more and more and thinking we need more and more, right? And it's a really big trap. And I mean I'm definitely guilty of it. I've been super self-indulgent, especially when it comes to food. Like I would just pig out on food, and then I mean anything else. I've spent a bunch of money on electronics or whatever at certain points where I just really wanted to do something fun with it, and it was really, really cool. But the more and more I did that, the more and more I wanted, and it put me into a place where I was really unhappy with my life. And that's really strictly because I indulged myself to such an extent that it just had nowhere else to go, and it just broke me. Yeah. So fasting really, really puts into perspective like what you need in life and what you don't need, and how valuable kindness is to everybody, including yourself, and how powerful it is. Being kind, kind of inextricably kind or unconditionally kind to people, it's very, very powerful. It changes people. Even a small acts change people, but it has to be a genuine, unconditional kindness. Being kind to people that are really rude or mean, that don't deserve it, it leaves a mark on them. And I've seen it over and over and over again. You watch movies, TV, and media crap that's not true, and you'll see people being kind to rude people, and then they just don't care and they just go on. I think that's a fallacy. The people that have been inconsiderate and rude to me or hurtful to me that I've been acted in kindness back to, it's always made an impact on them. And that something about that contrast is even more violently impactful than, if someone's nice to you and then you say something nice back, right? It just doesn't have an impact, right? Two like things don't really affect each other, but two opposite things do have a drastic impact on each other. So yeah, so those are my thoughts for the day. On prolonged fasts, they say that around the 7-10 day mark, there's a marked change in people's personality, and they become a lot more kind and accepting and thoughtful, and this kind of difficulty and depressive rumination on how difficult the fast is lifts, and then you're left with this really cool version of yourself underneath that. So maybe this is a part of that, maybe it's not. I'm really looking forward to it though. Right now this fast seems impossibly long, but my resolve to do it is indomitable, barring me appearing to have, damaging consequences from the fast. I will not stop. And I think to go on a long fast, part of you has to feel that way. I'm sure there's more of an accepting, easygoing process to it that would work for some people as well, but for me, I accept it, I'm grateful for it, I'm taking it as it goes, but at the very base layer of myself is complete determination and commitment to do it, irregardless of any unpleasantness that I feel. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Thanks for listening. I hope you're doing well out there.